I'm Rachel Henderson and welcome along to this video tutorial where you will learn how to make upcycled paint tin pots. Now this project is such a great way of using those leftover paint tins that we all have lying about our garage just gathering dust. By repurposing and reusing them, we are saving them from landfill, which is way much better for the environment. This is such a fantastic sustainable weekend project and they are so easy to make. You could get the whole family involved in creating lots of different designs and it's just a really lovely thing to do together. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to print your very own checkerboard design, and I'm also going to show you how to work with stencils and come up with a really lovely decorative design as well. You might also decide to go freestyle and create your own designs. It's completely up to you. Once you complete this workshop, you will have the upcycling bug and you'll also have the confidence to go on and create more similar types of projects. You'll be looking around your home, trying to find lots more items that you can repurpose and revamp. I really hope that you enjoy this tutorial and I cannot wait to see your creations. For this project, you will need some leftover paint tins, an old basin of hot soapy water to wash your tins out in. It's also a good idea to look out some rubber gloves for this part of the process. You will need some Dulux multi-surface primer. You can also use Zinsser Bullseye primer, which also works really well for this technique. You'll also need some Polyvine Decorator's varnish. If placing your planters outdoors, make sure that you use Polyvine's heavy duty varnish. You will need a selection of different colours of paint. I recommend using chalk paint or chalky emulsion as it has a lovely thick consistency, and if you use this type of paint, your pot is less likely to chip. You want to try and use up paint left over from other projects, or even if you have some tester pots lying around, these are also fantastic to use up for this type of project. You'll need a couple of kitchen sponges, one for printing and the other for washing out your paint tins. You will need a selection of decorator's fine tip brushes and a few different sizes of painting brushes for creating your stencil designs. If you are wanting to create the checkerboard design, you will need to look out some DIY all-surface masking tape, as you will need this to print the design onto the pot. You will need some stencil designs. These can be downloaded on this page and you will need to print these out. You will also need to look out a pair of craft scissors and an old tea towel for drying out your paint tins. And lastly, you will need to look out some sandpaper for removing all of your leftover paint. The first step is to wash out your paint tins. It is important to know that paint cannot be disposed of in your normal bin. Councils are unable to accept liquid paint as liquid wastes are banned from landfill sites. It also should not be washed down the drain because it is highly flammable and dangerous to add to your plumbing system. Its fumes can release into any parts of the house or the paint can even ignite. If there is a larger amount of paint in the can, more than a few centimetres deep, empty it into a bin bag and add some dry soil, sand or sawdust to the can and leave to harden. Then you can dispose of it at your local recycling centre. If you have just a little drop of paint left inside your tin, you can empty the remainders onto a piece of card or cardboard and leave to harden. Use your kitchen sponge to remove as much as you can. Once dry, you can then dispose in your household bin. Now give your tin a good wash out with hot soapy water. I've used Fairy Liquid, and then dry off with an old tea towel and remove the plastic label as well. You might want to pop on some rubber gloves for this part of the process as it can get very messy. What you want to do now is you want to get rid of all of the dried paint around the edge of the tin and inside the tin. You can do so by using some really rough sandpaper. I recommend using 80 grit paper. Make sure that you remove all of the paint before you start to prime. You can now give your tin another little clean using your tea towel. It's now time to get priming. The reason you need to prime your metal tin is because you need something for the top coat of paint to adhere to. A primer seals your raw surface and evens out the porosity of the surface. Your design is less likely to chip as well if you prime your item thoroughly. Apply thin layers of primer and spread evenly and quickly across the surface. If you find that your primer is too thick, try thinning it by about 10% in a plastic container with some water and test before applying. If you apply the paint too thickly, you will see the brush marks. You want the coat of primer to look nice and smooth. If you are going to be using your finish pot as a planter, make sure that you prime the inside as well to avoid the tin from rusting. You want to give your tins at least 2 coats of primer and leave them to dry for at least 2 to 3 hours before applying your top coat. It's now time to apply your top coat of paint. Apply 2 and leave to dry fully in between coats and afterwards for around 2 to 3 hours. You can speed up the process if you like by drying with a hairdryer or heat tool. I am now going to show you how to create a printed checkerboard design. You will need your DIY all-surface masking tape for this technique. The first thing you will need to do is place a vertical strip of tape onto your pot to mark the starting point. Make sure it is long enough to fold over the top and bottom edge by about 1 to 2 centimeters. Now, using a tape measure and a pencil, mark the width of your tape all the way around the edge of your pot. Using your pencil marks as a guide, apply the tape evenly around your pot. Now turn your pot horizontally and do the same. Mark the width of your tape all the way around the circumference of the pot to ensure that you get an even checkered pattern. Using the pencil marks as a guide, apply the tape evenly around your pot. At this point, make sure that you rub all across the taped areas to ensure that they have adhered to the pot. That way you will get lovely, nice, sharp lines. Let the tape set for about 20 minutes before applying the paint. The next step is to cut your kitchen sponge into 4 parts and using one of them, start to print and block in the checker design. Repeat all the way around until you have completely filled in the untaped areas. You want your paint to be a nice thick consistency for this technique so it doesn't bleed. Make sure you don't water it down in any way as this could cause the design to bleed. Also make sure you don't apply it too thickly to avoid having lots of clumpy bits. You can press the sponge onto some kitchen roll to get rid of any excess paint before applying. Make sure that you apply 2 coats and leave to dry fully for 1 hour in between coats and afterwards. You will now need to carefully peel away and remove all of the tape. Do this nice and slowly, starting with the horizontal tapes and then remove the vertical tapes. It is now time to fill in all of your gaps. You will need to do so by attaching strips of tape onto the printed areas. Apply vertically, then horizontally, and take your time making sure that you line them up properly. Once you have done so, make sure that you rub across all of your paint strips to ensure that they have adhered to your pot. It is now time to start applying paint to all of the untaped areas. Do so in exactly the same way as you applied your first layer. It is up to you what colour you want to use. You might want to use a different one like I've done in this tutorial. Again, apply 2 coats and then leave to dry fully for about 2 to 3 hours. Now carefully peel it away and remove all of the tape strips, starting with the horizontal ones and then peel away the vertical strips. Be sure to take your time to avoid pulling off any paint. If you have any uneven squares, you can touch them up at this point using a thin painter's brush. You might also want to paint around the rim and even inside as well. I am now going to show you how to create a decorative motif design using templates. Here's one I made earlier. I've given this large tin 2 coats of lilac chalky emulsion. You might also want to paint the handle a different colour to jazz it up even more. To add a painted motif design, you will need to download the templates I've provided and print them off onto card. You might also wish to go freestyle and create your very own design. It's completely up to you. If you do so, I recommend drawing your design or pattern onto a piece of paper first before beginning your project. Cut out whichever motif design you would like to add to your pot. I am going to go for a small daisy design for this one. Position your template and draw around it using a pencil. Avoid using pens in case you make a mistake, as you won't be able to rub out your lines. Once you have penciled in your design, you can now start to colour in your motifs using a small painter's brush and some chalk paint or chalky emulsion. I've decided to create little white daisies with bright yellow centres, but you may decide to do something completely different. It's totally up to you. Give your designs 2 coats of paint and then leave to dry fully in between coats and afterwards for about 1 to 2 hours. Now all that's left to do is to varnish your pots. Give them 2 even light coats and make sure that you don't apply the varnish too thickly, as little bubbles will appear. If you would like to use your pots as outdoor planters, make sure that you apply 3 to 4 coats of heavy duty varnish. And there you have it, 2 vibrant upcycled pots, perfect for storing things in or displaying your plants and flowers. Here are some other upcycled tins I have designed. You can create so many wonderful designs using paint. The possibilities are endless. If you would like to have a bash at more upcycled projects, these are some of the other items I have worked on that you might like to have a go at. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and please tag @the Rachel Henderson Studio if you decide to share your makes. Happy upcycling!